This is Ben Franklin, welcoming you to the Forecast, where we light a candle rather than curse the darkness. Each week, we highlight the people proving that progress isn't just possible, but necessary. As Poor Richard said, energy and persistence conquer all things. Now, let's get to work.
Welcome, Pamela Wood, to your forecast. I'm so excited for you to join me today. For those of you who are just joining, I'm really excited to introduce Pamela, who I met last year on a project that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, just tell everybody a little about yourself. I was really excited to learn about your background of over 20 years in nonprofit fundraising. We met through your current capacity with Step Up Louisiana. But I was really amazed to learn about all the work that you had done with Black Lives Matter, with the radio station, as well as Habitat for Humanity and United Way of Los Angeles. Just a really amazing array of organizations that you've helped over a couple of decades. So congrats on all the amazing work you've done. And thank you for joining.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here.
So Pamela, you for those who are listening in, you and I met last year while I was helping with some brainstorming sessions that Step Up Louisiana was taking part of. I don't know if you remember, we were right after the election, all sort of collectively asking what next. And you just really impressed me with your energy and zeal, and really capturing the moment that we're in now ahead of time. Yeah. So at that time, I was sort of formulating that I wanted to put the show together, and I was like, Pamela is someone I have to have on. And so thank you so much for joining as my guest.
I am so excited to be here. Absolutely right. We just, how you fall into comrades when you start talking about things that really press upon your heart, and you just start talking. And so I totally clicked with you, a couple other folks in there. And, you never know what can happen. And here we are today, sitting in a podcast.
Yeah, here we are. So, Step Up Louisiana, among many things, achieved this, something I think a lot of people listening to this wouldn't have thought possible a couple of years ago, passing a worker bill of rights in the state of Louisiana. As I understand, you all knocked over about 50,000 doors, made about 100,000 phone calls in this amazing organizing effort. I'm curious, can you share with me what's new with Step Up Louisiana, as well as what you're hearing on the ground in Louisiana these days?
Listen, everywhere I go now, the WBOR, the Workers' Bill of Rights, precedes me because it is such an unusual thing. Number one, we are a small Black dot in a very big red state. And I say Black dot because we are a majority Black city, New Orleans, for those who are not familiar with geography here. And the fact that we are, as they say, holding our own as best we can and able to do that turnaround, because that was a lot of hard work. We have a legislative person who actually goes down to Baton Rouge, to the Capitol, and does the advocacy for us. And it is a hand-to-mouth existence. If I'm not in your face saying, look, the people are starving. Long story short, we got the bill passed, and it passed with an 80% majority on that presidential ticket. Now, think about that. We are the engine, the little engine that could out here trying to push the limit, because New Orleans is basically a hospitality tourism city, which means it relies on people who earn low wages. And they have for years and years, centuries, let's just say that. And to have $15 an hour in this red state is just unheard of. And it's a pat on the back for us, but it's also letting us know, you know what? Our voices are stronger than we've been led to believe. And collectively, together, this is what can happen, and we can turn the tide. And it just pushes us forward. Absolutely.
That's great. What is the mood these days as the new administration continues their march of tyranny?
Their march of tyranny. You know what? Black folks, I'm going to be real. Black folks have always been close to the ground because of circumstances. And so we don't have far to fall. The fear for us is not something new. As a matter of fact, we're not in a fearful state. We are in a state of, okay, we're going to take our loss that happened in November. And I'm sure Anybody who has any inkling of being on social media, you will hear people talk about the 92%, the 88%. We are going inside. And going inside is an okay thing to do because the reality is the fight is not ours. We've done all we can do. And so in Louisiana, yes, it's a big red state. It's the, I keep saying we're that tiny black dot and that small engine that could, but fear doesn't rule us. Absolutely not. What rules us is that we have to know what is coming. We already knew what was coming. And how do we react to it? Not be reactionary, but how do we react to it? How do we turn it around? We've done this a million times before, and the interesting thing is looking at it as a lens of you're looking at everybody else who's panicking. And we're just sitting here saying, we've been doing this. We have been doing this and we know how to pivot. We know how to say, you call us a bad word, we flip the word around. You tell us you're going to take what little social foundations we have. Okay, we've also survived that too. And so it's a matter of, and I hate this word at this point, resilience. It's I think it's overused, but we're in a moment of resiliency. And baby, you better come out with all, you can throw everything against us at this stage. It is literally not new, and I think our reactions are different because this is the first time others have had to experience it. So that's an interesting lens to look at others experience what we have always experienced all along. And it's just like, okay, welcome to the show. Welcome to the big show. It's been this way all the time. And so for us, we are investing in our members, right? So we have about 550 members that are part of Step Up Louisiana. We listen to their needs, their desires, their fears, their thoughts, and that affects our processes of how we go forward. Having said that, we have something like a mutual aid society, which is very unique to the culture of New Orleans. If you are familiar with New Orleans, and you've seen many years ago,
I
because
love New
Black
Orleans.
folks, right, weren't allowed insurance, homes, all these mortgages. There was mutual aid, right? So they had their own clubs to become the social fabric to help people stay alive. And we are instituting that ourselves. We even do wellness checks. Our door knocks are not just to get out the vote. Our door knocks are to do wellness checks on our members as well. How are you doing? Is there something that's missing from the household? What do you need? And always going out and saying, what can we do for ourselves? And so the strategy is to stay in motion. Even if you can't see us necessarily, we are in motion.
Were you able to knock on doors with the snow you all had this year?
New Orleanian folks just doubled up on their hoodies. They don't necessarily have coats and things like that. We do have coats, but I'm a New Yorker that's transplanted here. So I was in ecstasy because I could wear all my coats and I wore them every hour on the hour that I could.
I always find, I mean, I can only imagine being down there, but being a transplant from New York in the mid-Atlantic and the DC area, it just always amazes me how little people can tolerate the snow where I'm like, this is great. I'm curious. So like you made a really important point where we folks that are panicking more right now, should be following your all's lead. And I'm curious, like what advice you have for folks listening on how we can stay focused, right? Like it seems it's not a new concept. Authoritarians have used this like constantly. They know that if they flood the zone with lots and lots of chaos, it's going to distract us, divide us, demoralize us. So like what like do you have any recommendations on how we can stay focused on what matters in a time like that?
Yeah, because at this stage, all politics are local, right? And so what's going to affect you the first thing are going to be those local issues. If you are not familiar what is coming up on the ballot for your local community, you do yourself a disservice. That's the first thing. Find those things out, internalize it, and figure out how it's going to affect you and your family. Now, on the larger macros, of course, things are going to be like the concept of getting rid of the Department of Education, that is some social fabric destruction. Okay. And so what's interesting is he was also the president during COVID times where we had to go inside. Okay. And we should have some lessons that we've learned from being inside. We learned how to teach our children. We learned how to talk to our children, probably for the first time in generations where we were back inside. And guess what? He's forcing us back inside. That might not be what he initially thought would happen, but the reaction is to go inside, go in community, learn who your neighbors are. Listen, in New Orleans, you can knock on anybody's back door within reason and ask for some food. You'll get a good plate. But that sense of community and culture still exists here. The rest of the US needs to start adapting that and adopting it. Just being open with people you see on the street. And this is so micro, and saying hi, giving a smile. Listen, my hair it changes according to the season, right? So I've got Mardi Gras hair today, which will be March 4th. But what's interesting about this hair is people will walk up to me, all colors. People will walk up to me and start talking about hair. And it usually flows over into some other conversation. And I can talk about what's happening in the community. Whatever you have within you, you're going to have to open it up and let it shine, because the darkness is trying to roll in and take over. And everybody's light is going to have to come out. You can't hide it anymore. You can't shy away from it anymore. You know, I'm at the age where most of the folks in my family are way older. And guess what? The fearful thing is it's my time to ascend, to be in charge. And you still want to be that kid. It's not my turn, but it is your turn. I hate to let you know, it is your turn. You know, you're going to be responsible for what the meal should be. You're going to be responsible for where everybody should be. That's the same thing you're going to have to do in your community. You're going to have to knock on your own neighbor's doors.
Well, you were inspiring me on two fronts. One, I mean, I can't grow hair as long, so so it's a little bit shorter highlights. But I really want some Mardi Gras hair. That's a really great point. I am curious. Ash Wednesday, what color do you switch to?
Oh, no, because I have all of the colors in it intentionally: gold, purple, and green.
So you keep going, yeah.
I'm good. I'm one of the few people who's been ready.
But like, also you inspired me, like, you know, around here, you know, it's very much an industry town in DC, and like, yeah, I just know so many people who either lost their job already, are about to lose their job, or they are just in an awful environment. You know, I was talking to someone, they work at they work at the Department of State, and like one of the political appointees walks around proudly with like MAGA, like full on MAGA attire, just like they like walk around like it's a performance for them, and are like prodding, like, you know, metaphorically prodding everybody they come upon, trying to get them to have like a reaction so that they can like be like, well, I don't know, this person is like maybe not a good fit at the State Department. You know, my neighbor works at the Department of Education. Yeah, I mean, it's just like constant like conversation here, and you've inspired me. Like, I feel like here, you know, in the suburbs where I live outside of DC, like we need to be doing more to check in on people, because, you know, everybody I'm talking to, they're not doing so well, and I think that it's really awful, because there's just so many people here who are just good folks that do this for less money than they could make elsewhere, because they believe in the cause. They believe in being a civil servant. There's certainly waste in government for sure, but these people are not it, right? The folks that they're targeting are not bad people. They're not like lazy government employees. They're trying to get rid of the people who actually do stuff, from my perspective.
Oh, I
And
think you're absolutely right.
I'm curious, like, what do you, so here I am, I'm frustrated, and I'm worried about people. Like, do you think I should like look into organizations that are already like trying to canvass the neighborhood and try to help people, and like try to join forces with them? You know, or people like just literally like, I'm going to go after this call and knock on some doors and be like, are you doing okay? Like, can we get you anything? Like, you know, there's at least 4 people that live within a stone's throw of me that just lost their job, you know, and it's like, I'm worried about them.
Yeah. So the whole concept of this chaos that he is creating leads to isolation, which is what he's doing with the country as a whole in the world by isolating us, right? And so the opposite of isolation is absolute community. You are responsible for the people in your community. Even if you don't know them today, Make it your responsibility to get to know them. Because if you think worst case scenario, like these movies they have on Netflix, there's an apocalypse. When you come outside your door in the middle of the apocalypse, you better know Miss Jane across the street or so and so down the block. I know what he has. You should be asking, what are your skills? Can you grow vegetables? Are you able to fix a car? I know it's so rudimentary. These are things we have lost touch with. And with Step Up, it's about community. I should be able to say, I know Miss Francis has a problem with the oil in her car. It gets to be that minute and that small because you represent the hope that you're hoping to see. You know, you said something about Hope Core. There is such a thing as Hope Core, and we need to institute that stuff right now. I mean, I know it's antithetical to what we're used to doing, but I also believe that it's the matriarchy that has been absent for so long. The patriarchy wants you to be a solo artist. The patriarchy
Yeah.
wants you to perform in a silo, in isolation. And now is not the time for us as individuals to go into isolation because you begin to feed on the words and the things that you let through, and the speech becomes too heady and you just want to lay down. I used to
Mm.
like sometime last year, I was just like, I'm just going to take a nap. I've learned to institute naps. Naps are the refresher. I recommend them. They're better than any pill. It's okay to lie down and take a nap because it's toxins that keep coming to us through social media. The president is just the king of isolationism and chaos. It's okay to turn away. Even a child told him the other day, shut up. What was that? What was Elon? Was he 4 or 3? Whatever he is, children
He's
can
4,
see
yeah.
straight through you. They literally can see you because they just left the place upstairs, right? They're the closest to God. They just got here. So they're not fuzzied by visions of other people. They literally see you for who you are. And when that child said to him, shut up, you're not the president, came from a very honest place.
Well, I was wondering if did it come from he's heard his dad tell him that before or other people, right? But no, I agree with you, and I also enjoyed that he picked his nose and wiped it on the Resolute desk, which I feel like is the most ultimate form of civil disobedience to
It's
to
the
put a
hero,
booger on the
the
president.
hero we've been waiting for. We didn't know that,
Yeah, it's gonna start a whole movement. We're just gonna pick our nose in front of
basically.
the fascists. Do you see like in the horizon, like from my perspective, and obviously I'm in the tank, right? Like, so I definitely have a biased perspective, both living near the Beltway and having worked in politics for so long. I see like inflation going up more again. I see like the tone suddenly shifting from like, well, I'm going to fix it on day one to now it's well, good things come to those who wait, right? Like they're literally saying now like, well, there's going to be some suffering, but then it's worth all that freedom that we're going to have, which obviously I don't believe. Maybe there are people on his side certainly do believe that. Some of them are paid trolls, but like, I'm curious, do you see like folks in Louisiana questioning, like you talk to some, like obviously you talk to folks in New Orleans, but you talk to other parts in the state as well. Like, do you think that there is some recognition seeping in that maybe they bought some snake oil?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you're not going to hear it in the way that your soul would enjoy it. The mea culpa is not going to come in the way that you would have hoped, but it's coming. And slowly but surely, they're recognizing that, okay, I voted for something that I wasn't expecting to lose my farm on, literally. So a lot of us, and I'm saying Black people, will say white folks are going to have to solve this issue because they, in fact, created it. You're going to have to figure it out. There's a movie I used to watch, and young girl goes to see her grandmother, and she doesn't know that there's a song the grandmother loves to play, and the girl always forgets the words, and the grandmother says, "Doggone it, booga booga, just figure it out." You literally going to have to figure it out. There is no other thing for me to say that you're going to have to talk to the relatives who you don't talk to anymore, the ones who voted for Trump, the ones who put us in this position. And I honestly believe, this is me talking, not necessarily for Step Up, that the Constitution is in duress, absolute duress. And she may be on her last legs, at least all of the amendments, because the amendments are not a part of the Constitution. They don't have to be there if you really think about it. So if you strip the amendments, which is what it looks like he's trying to do, that means all of us revert back to what the original writers of the Constitution knew and thought should be. So I become 3/5 of a person, right? And so what does that mean? Actually, it's the existence of being a 3/5 of a person isn't too far removed from what we exist in today. As a Black person, there's some things I know that I have to do in order to at least achieve what I have achieved. You know, it's part of the reason why I am now in a small civil rights organization. It's because everything I learned in my 27 years in corporate philanthropy was right beside white guys. I learned everything from white guys in terms of philanthropy and fundraising. And let me tell you, y'all know how to raise the money. That's what I learned. I raised $250 million in my career in those 3 decades. But I had to say to myself, what's my legacy going to be? So literally, I'm here giving it away because this organization could not afford what I would be doing normally in my larger white corporate world life, you know? And so at some point you have to say, okay, you got to give it away. So what I say to everybody is if you have the information, if you have the knowledge, the wherewithal, give that shit away. Excuse my language. Give it away. It will serve the greater good. Getting people to understand about the greater good this is the moment. We're in it right now. If you don't wake up to this is what the greater good is about, we're all going to suffer. And it's part of it. Is it so bad if it's destroyed? Because the Constitution never included me. It never included me. So am I sad about the Constitution that needs to be reconstituted? I'm sad about the fabric that's being pulled from under everyone's legs. I'm sad about that. But I'm also okay with rewriting that. It's okay. Let's rewrite it so that everybody is in it, you know? And I think we're coming to that time. I don't think the economy will survive what Trump is going to do. You know, I think this whole crypto versus dollar may crash it. But guess what? That's where you have to learn how to barter. Remember I said when you go see your neighbor, you have to learn how to barter. You're going to have to learn how to exchange those things, goods for works. I know it. I'm talking about like, it's the Aquarian me, talking about this big, big thing. But what's really little is next door and across the street, and how my one little person can perform towards the greater good. I mean, that's what Step Up is trying to communicate to those in the neighborhoods that are downtrodden. You know, knocking on those doors and saying, can you come out to a meeting? Can you come out and just advocate for someone else who may be in need? It's so tiny, yet it's so big because we hide behind these little machines now. You know, we're all keyboard protagonists and antagonists. We play both ends. But in building this hope core that you talk about, it literally means I got to talk to Keegan today. When they pop in your mind, let me talk to him. What's going on? We're all going underground, literally. We're all going underground, and we're vocalizing when the time is right.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is why. No, you said an incredible amount, amazing things. I have like so many follow-up questions on. The first one I want to share. I had a proud father moment during the Super Bowl halftime show where one of my kids asked why Kendrick Lamar said 40 acres and a mule. And I got to like play a history teacher in my living room because I like, just frankly, like a lot of people don't know that. And that's like, makes me very sad. And all these people who are like, you know, we have to get rid of CRT and we can't like talk about like all the awful things that made indigenous people do, you know, when we took over their land, right? Like there, you know, it's, the world is not always black and white, but I do feel like there is there are two poles that we operate on of we should acknowledge the awful things that we've done in the past, you know, like as colonizers, as white folks, as Americans generally, like there's just awful things that we've done and that we should acknowledge for. It doesn't make me like, I don't feel like I'm a bad person because my ancestors did bad things, but I should acknowledge it and try to strive for something better, especially when like we promise folks that are 3/5 to your point that they're
Yeah.
going to get land as a result. And then we go back and we say like, nope, never mind. And now we're going to pay the white folks that like we took the land from originally for their inconvenience after all this.
Exactly.
And there are people who just don't want that to be taught. And so I was really excited, and thank you for bringing that up because it's reminded me of Kendrick Lamar's performance.
Think about this. The Super Bowl was the blackest thing in the blackest city. The performance was the blackest we'll ever see. The timing is extremely interesting. And I don't know if they knew that he was going to play them in that way. But to your point, to tell your child, here's a good question. Think about, why are they so interested in my erasure? What does my erasure mean? What does Native American erasure mean so much to those who want to do it? Why? Because I can run circles around anything that you put me up against. How is that possible? I was explaining to a young lady the other day, I said, you know what? The transatlantic trip, I'm going to call it the transatlantic trip here from Africa. Okay, started off in Africa, and those who were captured by other Africans and shipped, to America, the passage itself is so demanding, so difficult. There are those who jumped over, committed suicide. There are those who made it to the Caribbean stops. There are those who made it to America. There are those who survived beatings. The atrocities go on and on and on. And towns are burned down like Tulsa. And we start all over again. And I said to the young lady I was sitting across from, I said, I want you to think about that. Your DNA is the survivor DNA. It is the DNA that has brought you this far. Do you know how strong you actually are if you are still sitting here as a Black person? Do you know how much shit you've been through? Your DNA is coded for survival. Literally coded. There are changes that happen throughout, hundreds of years. I said, when I look at you, I need you to understand this, that you were not meant to wither and die. You literally are the product of all of those people who made a decision at some point, I will survive. And so we come with that. We may not intrinsically think of it that way, but we come with that. And so when I see all these people also complaining, well, why are Black people out there marching? Why are they? Baby, we did the work. And you know what? If you want me to throw the first rock, it's not going to happen because you are used to Black bodies dying. We're not doing that anymore. You're used to me being on the front line. You're used to me sacrificing. The sacrifice has been paid. The bill has been paid. We're good. But I tell you, when the time comes for us to say, for you all to say, how do you do it? Look at us. We're sitting in community. And I think it's shocking that they're always looking for a leader for us. Don't worry about us. We are busy doing the work inside for ourselves. And we're hoping against hope that you all will do the work for yourselves. For the rest, it's time for you to take up the mantle for the rest of us. So when you tell your child about 40 acres and a mule, you got to also talk about all of the lies that we've been fed, and we're still here, still doing the damn thing. We need to do it in community now, right? I'm sorry. On and on.
It's extremely profound. I am curious. I don't want to make light of your remarks, but there was one thing that you said earlier that I want to go back to because I'm just curious, and also you touched on something that I've thought about for a long time because I've worked with other non-white folks in like the political agency space, and they've been like, well, you don't understand like how much of this sales stuff that you do is like white culture and like how we have to like code switch. And it was like a really interesting conversation, right, about like becoming more white so that you can sell.
Yeah.
And you touched on the stuff that you learn from like white folks in development. Do they ever make you watch Glengarry Glen Ross? Do you know that movie?
I've seen it, the play. I'm old enough to have been at the Broadway. Yes, I have seen Glengarry Glen Ross, the real estate.
So yeah, obviously the play is even better than the movie, but there's a classic scene where coffee is for closers, and I think about that a lot.
Oh yeah,
Like,
listen.
what white culture driving like performance, right? And I think one of the challenges, I'm just going to speak up, for myself, and when thinking about like needing to go inside and think about community is like I've been taught my entire life to like I have to perform, like
Mhm.
like progress, right? Like it was often at the expense of many other people, right? Whether it was taking advantage of a customer or a donor, or just like whatever you can do to get the sale done, to move things forward, and always go go go, never question yourself. And I that's one of the things I've been like wrestling with is is trying to combat that culture so that we could hopefully create a future where there's space for everybody and all of their differences, and we can prosper together, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't really have a great way of saying it,
Yeah.
frankly, because now I feel like I'm just floundering in my question. But I'm curious, like, what do you like? I think it's a very valid point that like white folks have to figure it out. But do you think that there are lessons that we can take from while we're trying to figure it out, like from other cultures? Or is it like literally just a conversation that we need to have with white folks that are ready to admit that like we fucked up and this is really bad and we need to fix things, and like, all right, you all figure it out and come back to us when you have a plan, and then we'll talk? Or do you think there's some lessons we can learn from other cultures?
Absolutely. Other cultures, if I touched on it, are matriarchal, not so much patriarchal, which is more of a white centered thing. And I think there are lots of notes to be taken from that when you begin to center the very being that you come from. Softness is shunned, in that patriarchal world. When I say I've worked with the white boys are interesting, and I actually believe that white men and black women are kind of the same in terms of where they are in their community, meaning we're going to get it done. Probably the only difference is that we show maybe a little bit more humanity. But I'm telling you, everyone that I have ever worked with who helped move me ahead was a white man, a white male. On occasion, it was another black woman if she had the power. And so I've taken my lessons, but from white males in this particular industry. But I was told that using my humanity was detrimental because I used to work lots of capital campaigns. I was at a church and the pastor got in front of his parish board and said, "We have a problem with the new folks that are moving in." It was a white parish mostly. And it was a group of Africans who had just come to America, and they were Catholic, obviously, because they had, met missionaries and whatever. They came to this parish and they were complaining, and the white parishioners were complaining. And I didn't understand this. I had just gotten there. I was just supposed to do the capital campaign. I was supposed to be in and out, as the white fellas tell me. In and out, get the money, get the million, be gone. And so at my first meeting, the priest was upset. He said, "Look, we have a problem in the parish." I didn't know he was going to say this. And this is how well I blended in. I learned that. He said, "The new parishioners, it's the music." Like, what's wrong with the music? Turns out the African parishioners wanted more drums. They wanted more drums, and they wanted to change the liturgical music. And this had the white parishioners on edge. And I thought, what? And I actually sat there and I said, "You tanked my entire campaign. You just tanked my entire, because I was about, I got to get the money. I got to get the money." So I told my boss, the pastor, just screwed up my campaign. And he said, "Pamela, you got to get rid of that liberal part of yourself. That's none of our business." Whether those black people were, and I just looked, it was a white guy, and I just looked at him like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was pulled off the campaign the next day. But the archbishop was told about what happened in that conversation, and I was put on another white parish campaign. So I say this, that learning how to subdue your humanity, I found to be a very white thing. It just didn't make sense to me. And so in doing those years, I grew very tired. I survived it because I knew how to pivot. And for many years, I was the only black woman. I was the only black woman in this large consulting firm of philanthropy. And we know how to hustle, just like the white boy knows how to hustle. But the difference is We kind of are a little bit more subtle with it. We don't necessarily want to kill you. We just want to get to the goal and we want to go home. That's the mantra of most Black people. I just want to go home. I'm here to get paid and I just want to go home. When I say to you, the lesson is learn how to be more human with others. It's not going to, trust me, it's this whole thing of scarcity. If you have a scarcity mindset that I give it away, I'm going to be impoverished. We're all about to be impoverished. Okay. Trust me, it's not the worst thing that will happen to you. It will get worse before it gets better. But you're going to have to be nice to people. I know it's hard. Be nice. I know these are so simple and it goes against capitalism, but the reality is I've made more money being nice to people than I have being stringent and difficult and hard with people. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned is, you know what? Just keep your hands like this. Don't keep them like this. Nothing comes to you like this. It all comes to you when it's like this.
That's a really great point. I'm curious. I have a sense of like what some of your predictions will be, but I'm curious. Like I'm very curious. Like both locally and nationally and globally. Like, what do you see happening over the next few months? Any big predictions you want to make right now, or just general trends that you're seeing?
General trends, inflation is going to be crazy. We're going to have to really invest in our food banks because a good percentage of us are already at the poverty level or seeping into it. And we're going to have to create that structure ourselves. And food banks, I hope people are volunteering. Food co-ops, I hope people are joining them. I hope people are looking at small businesses, mom and pop shops. This is their time to shine. I think the oligarchy is going to the boot is going to get bigger on our necks. I think legislatively in this red state, we are going to be crushed. But I also believe that their folly is that they don't understand humanity and wanting to survive. I think their folly will be that they want too much and it will topple them. That's my thought process. There's only so much you can grab off the table before you end up eating yourself. As someone said with the lepers, I never thought the lepers would eat my face. It's happening. It's going to continue. And then you're going to have a dawning and an awakening. Oh, I should join the other side. Come on. Come on. I'm not going to hold you back because I know you need me. You're going to need me.
Yeah. No, that's great. I agree with you, and I mean, if only we come up with an alternative to capitalism while we're on this call, maybe that would be something we could start a campaign for. But it is, yeah, all points well taken. I also you mentioned this before on like I'm not going inside too much, and like you and I have talked about TikTok a little bit,
Yeah,
before in the past, and like to me, like social media is ironically not very social. I will say that TikTok is one of the few that I've seen people build communities from.
yes, yeah.
And I wonder, like, do you see that now that sort of TikTok is back, but maybe not really? I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk is going to eventually own it, or Mark Zuckerberg or something. It feels like the boot will come down on TikTok again, right? From my vantage, but like, what outside of like door knocking, do you think that there's any sort of role media can play, right, in trying to build community that's going to be needed as things get worse?
Absolutely. I think TikTok will be good until it's not good anymore. It is compromised. It is not the same. And that's okay. We're still doing our thing despite, being shadowed and whatever they've done to the algorithm. God bless. Listen, you can go over to Xiaohongshu and make new friends across the world, which is something they did not expect to happen. And this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You can't trust humanity because we will zig when you thought we were going to zag. And it's like,
Are you using the little red book? Are you over there? Like,
I got 1,000 followers. Yes, over there.
wow.
I am over there. Listen, here's how you stay young. Keep going backwards and learning the fastest things. Be an early adapter. Don't be afraid. Don't say, oh, learn it all. Learn it all. I just had my birthday on Tuesday. It's my 60th birthday. And so I'm surprised that I'm 60. Listen, people are surprised that I'm 60, but what I do know is I have an ability to leap in between generations because I'm curious. Stay curious. They can't kill you if they don't know what you're thinking. Okay? They can't kill you unless they know what you're thinking. Surprise them. And that's exactly what they did with Xiaohongshu. We all listen to me, I'm speaking Chinese. Why am I speaking Mandarin? This late stage.
Did you use any of the apps to like auto dub yourself? Like, have you put out like content where you're exclusively speaking Mandarin?
No, I haven't done that, but I do watch a lot. I am a polyglot. I do Spanish, French from high school. I had honors Spanish and French in high school, and I retained a lot of the Spanish. And so to me, switching over to Chinese to Mandarin was like, okay, it was fun to me. And I think just they're welcoming. They're so different from us, and they're so nice. Here we go again with the humanity and being nice to people. They were like, sure, come on in. We were like, what? It's okay, because we are told stay in your place. If it is not yours, don't touch it. They're just like, come on in, just be kind. And we're like, we're learning how to be kind.
Yeah, I remember seeing some when that was happening. There were quite a few videos of like, okay, Americans, welcome, but like stop, don't be assholes about this, and here's how you can prosper in our community. We're welcoming you in, but also don't do the stuff that we don't like.
Yeah,
Mainly
don't do
like,
that.
don't be like an asshole.
Right. We completely policed ourselves as well. We were like, hey, that's no. You don't do that joke here. But we do have manners.
Yeah. Well, I just found it amusing that like it was like, like a lot of the stereotypes that they were bringing up about our culture was like pretty spot on. I'm like, wow, you have like a pretty good insight. Like I know some of it's propaganda that you probably hear about us, but like you're actually pretty accurate around and some of the things you're concerned about Americans coming into your community and saying or doing. and yeah. No, I thought it was remarkable, and it gave me hope for the future when that happened. I also agree that something's changed, so it's not the same anymore on
Yeah.
TikTok at least. So I'm curious to see what will happen as that. Like, have you seen all the videos on like, well, if you block the Facebook account and block like other accounts, your algorithm will be better miraculously again. Have you experimented with that at all?
Absolutely did it. I blocked Instagram, Facebook, and Meta. You have to block Meta
And did
in
it
order
change?
for
Did it change anything for you?
it definitely improved my algorithm because I began seeing people I hadn't seen in a minute. I was like, okay, got it. But as I said, it's compromised, and who knows how long this will last. And something else will come up, I'm sure, to take its place. We can build community literally anywhere, as we have learned through TikTok, and we
Yeah.
just need to replicate it in the streets as well.
Well, one of my dreams for the forecast and why I was so excited that you agreed to do this, one, because you just have such an amazing view on the world and what needs to happen. Like I don't have the resources to do it, so we'll see what happens. But like, I'm a big believer that we need to go back to print as a way to build community, and like obviously digital is always going to play a role in everything we do, and I wouldn't want to pretend like we have to ignore all of the tools that are at our disposal. But my hope is that like we can replicate in print like niche media in the way that TikTok has to really build community and actually get more folks together, because that's the one thing I'm hearing when I talk to people, at least on the left. It's like we sort of forgot why it was so important to get people together and talk in person. Like we became like very online creatures, and
Mhm.
great, like a lot of entertainment online, but we almost
Yeah.
became too online on the left. While like the right, like Trump's rallies, obviously there are a lot of things I disagree with being said there, but they really do build community at his rallies, and like there's a lot of fun and in-person connections that you just don't get from digital media. So my hope is with the forecast and when people like listening and will be inspired by you, is that like we can create something together that really allows for people to connect, because I do
Yeah.
think that's missing, and I don't see Mark Zuckerberg creating something that will help us there.
No, because if you don't put it in a book, you can hide it. You can literally hide. Social media, it's what? Remember when we used to call it the information superhighway?
Yes, I do remember that.
I'm getting on the information superhighway. And now it's literally,
Before that, did you ever dabble with BBSs, bulletin boards, like way back when, before like AOL and
no,
everything?
no, I didn't.
There was a whole area where you could just like you connect with your dial-up modem to like some local network where people would exchange information there. Um,
Really? Oh, wow. No, I mean, I have
anyway,
had
I
AOL.
interrupted your point. I apologize. Please continue.
No,
You were
I was
you were
just
going to
thinking
make a
about
point.
how we are socialized now. So you have these teens now who have anxiety anytime they have to be in a crowd or with people, and we've done them a disservice by not saying, "Here's a book." I remember my goddaughter was starting at a STEM school, and I had given her a list of books. One was Catcher in the Rye, so because I believe in the classics. Maya Angelou, I know what Cage Bird. So I'd given her a stack, but I had given her her first book, Catcher in the Rye. She was in sixth grade or seventh, something obscenely young, right? And I didn't know she was taking it to school with her every day until I went to the parent teacher conference to cover for her mom. And the teacher said to me, "Can you explain to me why Tamia is carrying Catcher in the Rye? Isn't that a very,
Wow.
you know?" And I said,
Huh.
it's a white teacher. And I said, "She's going to read what we give her." Well, I just don't understand. You don't have to understand. Her education is paramount for us. But isn't it a little, yes, it's advanced. It's supposed to be advanced. Don't question why a child is reading Catch in the Rye. You want to give her, the Care Bears book. Stop it. Stop it. So I'm thinking a white teacher thinking that Black students, sixth grader, should not have this in her possession. And she was reading it at lunch. That's what kind of surprised the teacher. But she knows, to me, it's got a heavy handed aunt who's like, "Did you read XYZ chapter?" When she comes home. Home was harder than school. And so I was like, it's every step of your life as a Black person. Every step, every inch is, monitored, questioned. It just becomes a part of your language and your DNA. When you say we code switch, it's because we have to, because we want to survive, you know? It's in community that I can lay back, kick back, and talk the way I want to talk. What I'm talking with you is somewhere in between white speak and AAVE. I'm bridging intentionally because at some point, y'all gonna have to come over here.
Yeah.
You just gonna have to walk it on over here because you got to get real. You can't be like this. You're gonna have to get real. You know.
Well, I know you're not necessarily inviting me to New Orleans, but I would love to move to New Orleans and join your community because I love that city.
We'd love to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one day I hope. I'm certainly a dream. Well, happy belated birthday. I just want to. I did
Thank
not
you.
realize it was such a big milestone. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
you.
as a fellow Aquarian, I already know that you're an amazing person, but it's just like been great to hear your thoughts and advice. And I
Yeah.
hope that like our listeners enjoy it as much as I have. And we'll have to do it again, frankly.
Yes. Yes, let's do it again and again and again until they hear us, until they absorb it and
Yes,
it becomes a part of their DNA.
that's a great way to put this. So let's check in again and we'll see if we're making any progress later this year. Thanks,
Okay,
Pamela. I
Keegan.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Much love.